Hey everyone, Karnak here, Star Wars Armada Explained. Thanks for joining me today, Swayers. I am reshooting my jamming barrier video because my last one, people were pointing out that I've been making some mistakes. They were small mistakes, and for the most part, I was able to edit them out. But it just came down to it. Just I need to reshoot the video and making sure that I'm trying to be as clear as I possibly can with the objective. So I'm reshooting jamming barrier. And in tomorrow morning, I'm going to release the last objective that I haven't done yet from Building Rim, the infested field. So stay tuned for that. This is just what I can accomplish in my spare time while I have it right now. So reshooting jamming barrier. So let's start off with reading it. Setup. Place obstacles as normal, excluding the station, and replacing the 2 debris field with the 2 dust fields. After deploying fleets, the second player places 2 objective tokens in the setup area at distance 1 to 5 of each other. Now, I'm not going to read the special rule yet, because the special rule is actually got... I have the original, and the special rule has been changed with the new FAQ, which I'm going to read now here, which says... So again, what you're seeing up, I think, on my OBS shows the new wording. So I'm not going to read the old one to avoid confusion. So this is what the new wording should say for this objective. It says, while attacking, if neither the attacker or defender are overlapping an objective token and line of sight is traced across an objective token or the line between the 2 objective tokens, the attacker must choose and remove half the die from the attack pool rounded down before rolling. So let's get into it. Okay. So the first thing we do for setup is we place obstacles as normal, meaning the second player starts first with placing the obstacles, but you exclude the station, you take it, you throw it out, and you replace, it's interesting, they should just say excluding the station, the 2 debris fields, and add the 2 dust fields would be simpler wording in my opinion. But essentially, you take the station, throw it out, take the 2 debris fields here, throw those out too, and you add in the 2 dust fields. Now the dust fields have a unique property in that any time that a ship is attempting to attack another ship or a squadron, in this example here I'm going to say it's the ISD that's attacking, if line of sight is traced across the dust field at all, again while either attacking a ship or while attacking a squadron, it cannot conduct the attack. Period. Squadrons, they treat the obstacle as any other obstacle. Their attacks are only obstructed. So squadron, the ship, it's considered obstructed just like any other squadron or any other obstacle, excuse me. Same thing if squadrons were to shoot other squadrons across the dust field. It's just a normal obstacle. This only comes into effect with ships. Again, dust fields, if you try to shoot through it, you can't. Now, what about, for example, if there is another ship breaching this dust field? Can you draw a line of sight over a ship across the dust field to another ship? No. This is a question that we've asked the developers, although we're extremely confident that the answer to this question is no, you can't use a ship to kind of bridge over an obstacle to shoot through it. Why do we have reasoning for this? I could go really technical on it, but pretty much, at no point, for example, in Station Assault, are you prevented from attacking a station that's underneath a ship. Obviously, if you're overlapping it, you can't shoot it, but it's still, the obstacle is still considered there. It doesn't matter how many things are over it. So in this situation, when you trace line of sight, even though it's completely over another ship, the obstacle is still present, and you're still tracing line of sight across it. So no, there's no bridging the gap in the situation. All right, I want to make sure that I was covering that. All right. So that's what the dust fields do. Essentially, they kind of are line of sight blockers for ships. Okay. Put these guys back up there. Perfect. So we've taken the station in the debris fields, tossed them out. We've added in the 2 dust fields. Now, we place the obstacles with the second player going first. The second player in the situation is going to be the Empire. First player is going to be the Rebel. As second player, it behooves you to try to position the dust fields in a position that's going to be advantageous for you. You're bringing them for a reason, so make sure that you're placing them with a plan. You know, some people like to kind of place one dust field out in the middle to where they kind of have like a buffer, especially against, you know, big beefy ships that want to come blow you up. Obviously, then the first player should throw the other dust field where it can't bother them, or maybe he wants to use it to shield his weaker ships. Who knows? And then we're going to say the rest of the obstacles go down as normal. Remember, they need to be placed beyond distance 1 of each other and in the setup area, which is beyond distance 3 from both players' edges and beyond distance 5 of the 3-foot edge. This is the setup area in the box here in the middle. Okay, obstacles are down. After deploying fleets, the second player places 2 objective tokens, which we have here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw a Star Destroyer and his Lambda there, and the Rebel's going to go down in his VCX here. Alright, so the second player, which is this Imperial on the bottom here, places 2 objective tokens in the setup area at distance 1 to 5 of each other. So these can go anywhere in the setup area, which can be either down in your deployment zone, it can be up in your enemy's deployment zone, it's anywhere in the setup area. But it probably is smart to try to put it, you know, where the vast majority of the action is going to take place, where it's going to be useful to you. So you put, let's going to say we're going to put 1 token down here, and then we're going to range distance 1 to 5. So remember, for distancing, black is distance 1, red is distance 2, orange 3, 4, 5. So it can't go beyond, let's see here, at distance 1 to 5. So it can go at distance 5, which as long as they're barely touching on that circle there, that's distance that's at distance 5. It cannot be placed beyond distance 5, which you can see there. Or if you want to place it, you know, right there, that's, you know, at distance 1 to 5 still. So you can have it as short of a distance or as long of a distance at distance 5 as you prefer. Now, generally, it's within your best interest to have it placed as far apart as you can, but again, all depends on your strategy. Now, again, let's read the rule. So we're going to go ahead and place these 2 right here. All right. Let's read the FAQ again. What does this jamming barrier do? So, while attacking, if neither the attacker or defender are overlapping an objective token, and the line of sight is traced across an objective token, or the line between the 2 objective tokens, the attacker must choose and remove half the die from the attack pool rounded down before rolling. So in this situation, we're going to say we have our ISD here, and he's attacking this MC80. And this MC80, we're going to say this is an ISD2, which throws the 4 red, 4 blue out the front. And we're going to say he wants to attack that MC80. Now, normally, at medium range, you are throwing all of the die in your attack pool, you know, as long as no obstruction or any other effects going on. But with this jamming barrier, you see here, as it says, if you draw a line across the jamming barrier, if you trace line of sight across that, you're losing half of your initial attack pool. So you gather up your die for your initial attack pool. Before you roll it, you say, I have to lose half of this. So you can mix and match. You could say, I'm going to lose all 4 of my red die, or all 4 of my blue die, or 2 and 2, or 3 and 1, etc. You have to lose half. So you go from rolling 8 die, typically, to 4 die. Now, you can still add die with like concentrate fire or other abilities after the initial attack pool. But anything that's affecting your battery armament, you need to lose half of. Like, let's say that this ISD2 did have spinal armaments equipped in its turbo laser slot, which allows it to add another red die to its front arc or rear arc. So it has the 5 red die and 4 blue. What happens then? Well, you still have to remove half rounded. So you, instead of removing, you know, what normally would have been 8 die to 4, you remove 9 die to 5. Okay, so half rounded is 5. Okay. But we're going to just roll this attack pool here. We're going to say the 2 red and the 2 blue. And then that's your initial attack pool. You can obviously add concentrate fire on after that. If you have other card effects that can add more die, etc., you can all do that after rolling your initial attack pool. Now, this is where things get a little fuzzy, is about the timing of this barrier and a couple of other things. Let's talk about the while attacking part. If neither the attacker or defender are overlapping objective token. What does that mean? If, for example, this objective token I was barely nicking the corner of, like example, say like right here. So even though I can draw a line of sight across it from token to token, and I'm still technically drawing line of sight across that line of sight of that token, as it says here, if neither the attacker or defender overlap the objective token and line of sight is traced across it, you must choose and remove half of your attack pool. Meaning, if you, as the attacker, is overlapping a token, jamming barrier is negated. If the defender is overlapping this token and you're shooting him, jamming barrier is negated. Okay, this doesn't matter if it's the ships or if it's squadrons. If, like, for example, if you have two squadrons kind of fighting on top, they're each on top of a token, they are negated as well, because otherwise they are also still affected by jamming barrier. So, for example, this VCX, which throws the 3 blue die, it would have to remove half round, and the Lambda, which throws the 2 black die, half is 1. So that is, it still affects squadrons. It still affects squadrons attacking other squadrons, or squadrons attacking ships. It still affects ships attacking ships or attacking squadrons. So this is just any attack, as long as neither the attacker or defender is overlapping an objective token, as it says there. And you can still trace line of sight across the tokens or between them. Okay. And line of sight is traced across an objective token or line of sight. So even if, like, for example, you're doing something like this, if you do trace line of sight across an objective token, that still removes half of your attack pool. The only time that that jamming barrier doesn't come into effect is if an attacker or defender is overlapping the token. Okay, want to make sure I'm being very clear on it. This is what I messed up on last time. So hopefully you guys are catching that. So again, if neither the attacker or defender are overlapping objective token, and line of sight is traced across an objective token or the line between the two tokens, remove half your attack pool round. I don't think I can get any clearer than that. Now, where do you draw that line of sight across the two tokens? Do you draw it from the middle of the two? Do you draw it from the top of the token to the top of the other token? Where is that line of sight drawn? Essentially, they don't give a definition. They just say from objective token to objective token, meaning that, as for who makes that determination, is it the attacker that makes the determination? Is it the defender who makes the determination? It's a really tough call. Essentially, the way that I would play this as a judge, and I've judged at GenCon, is that if there is any way, shape, or form that I can make line of sight cross from one objective token to the other, however I can accomplish that, that is a full line. It doesn't matter if it's all the way up like that, because what happens if you get a ship like this? Where do you draw that line of sight from? From the bottom, below the line of sight dot? Or do you draw it from above the line of sight dot, as from here? Well, I would do it to whatever is advantageous towards the defender. So I would draw the line from the top to the top, because that means now when he tries to draw that LOS, it's going to be affected, compared to if I drew it from here to here, which is underneath the LOS dot, and therefore is not affected by jamming barrier, then he would be able to roll his full attack pool. But essentially, again, personal ruling, I always defer this objective to the advantage of the defender. As long as you can show that there's line of sight to the two tokens, that you remove half your attack pool. Again, as long as you can prove that line of sight is actually going to be struck. Now, if this guy was actually further forward, even if I drew from the top of here to the top of there, you can clearly see that the line of sight is not being affected by the jamming barrier. I can clearly draw that without the barrier coming into play. Okay. I think you guys are getting it. Now, another thing I do want to point out is that these objective tokens are still affected by strategic, which VCXs and lambdas have. So if you did, for example, if you want to move at distance one of a token and then move that token, you can see there you can adjust how long that barrier could be. You can move it over here. Maybe you want to move that token out of the way so that your ship can shoot clearly into another ship, and then maybe you have another ship come along and can chuck that token back to block. There's some manipulation you can do with jamming barrier here. But that is, for all intents and purposes, that's jamming barrier. There's no crazy interactions with the objective itself. There's no crazy other card interactions or things that can go on. As it says, it's just you remove half before rolling your attack die. You remove half of it, round it up. So again, 4 goes to 2, 5 goes to 3, etc. And again, this affects ships and squadrons. So that's jamming barrier. I already covered the dust fields. Again, if you had, for example, both of these things, you couldn't even make the attack even across the jamming barrier because, again, dust fields negate all ship attacks to any other ship or squadron that it traces line of sight on. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything else that I'm missing there for jamming barrier. But of course, if you feel like I missed anything or if I got anything wrong, please be sure to point it out. Let me know. Again, I try to make sure I'm explaining these objectives as clearly as I can. But I appreciate you guys watching, and hey, I'll catch you next time.